I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage in Southern California. So today, what we're going to do, we're going to be focused on a Silver Shadow. This is a 73 Silver Shadow with, I think, 3,200 miles. No, sorry, it is now up to 4,800 miles. It's almost worn out. So this is a pretty rare car to have that low mileage. We're going to do a service. Now, one thing that, just so everybody knows, annoys the heck out of me is when somebody calls up, how much is an oil change? That's what everybody thinks is servicing your car. Well, just change the oil and filter. That's all it needs, right? Well, that's inaccurate, especially on a car as complex as this, you know, the Rolls-Royce. The Silver Shadow is one of the more complex cars ever built due to its extensive hydraulic system. But what we're going to do is I have what's called an annual maintenance. This is what I think, and also Rolls-Royce. I incorporate a lot of what Rolls-Royce has in their service schedules. They're pretty extensive. They want you to do it every 6 months. But these are things that I think are essential to keep the car up to snuff and to find any potential problems before they happen and you're on the side of the road broken down. This is what we call an annual service, which includes an oil change. Okay, and that's important to change the oil on a regular basis, obviously. Fortunately, these cars hold more than most cars. They hold almost 9 quarts of oil, so that's a lot of oil. So it takes longer to dilute it. I think their mileage schedule on this service on annual is 6,000 miles. Which is in the old school, it used to be every 3,000 miles. Nowadays, they build cars and they go 10, 15,000 miles for an oil change service, which to me seems a bit excessive. But what usually deteriorates oil is not only just sitting is bad for it because it accumulates vapors from the air and it turns into different chemicals and it gets into the oil. But also poor fuel management on the cars. Modern cars are very efficient when it comes to how much fuel goes in, when it fires, if there's timing issues like pinging or anything like that, it automatically adjusts everything so you don't have those other things that cause contamination in the oil. Plus the materials they build the vehicles with are much tighter clearances. That's why they want to extend it. Plus, when you think about it, car manufacturers want to sell cars. They don't want to keep them on the road very long. They'd rather you wear them out or they just fail. So that's my opinion. That's a political kind of thing. So let's get started. Also on this checklist, if you want a copy, if you can figure out how to do it on your computer by that screen share, that's great. If not, shoot me an email. I will send you a copy. I have them for different year models also. So when I do a service on a car, an annual maintenance, the first thing I do is I drive that car around the block. And the reason I do that is there's a lot of data that can be learned by driving the car. So let's say I drive the car and I go around the block and I go to the first corner and all of a sudden it doesn't want to stop. Now, okay, that's not why the car was brought in. It's in for a service, but me being someone with experience, and hopefully the professionals that do your cars have experience, it's our duty as a professional to let our customers know of anything that is safety related, first of all, or could cause them problems down the road. So essentially what I do is on this list, and I'm just going to go down the list so if you guys can't see it, on the road test check, I have engine performance. That's the first thing. I want to know if it accelerates, if it blows blue smoke, if it makes all kinds of noises. These are all things that are on my checklist, and I have in parentheses afterwards some of these things. Power, abnormal noises, excessive smoke. These are things that I would circle should there be a problem or something that I notice. Transmission performance. It's another thing you want to know. Does it shift okay? Does it shift early? Does it shift late? Does it shudder? Does it shake? Does it slip? There's so many things that can go wrong that should be addressed. typically. If it's fine, then it's fine. That's the important thing. Cooling system, watch your temperature gauge. Look for white smoke. White smoke out your tailpipe is not good. It typically means it's burning coolant. Blue smoke means it's burning oil. Black smoke means it's running too rich. These are all little indicators that people may not pay attention to or indicate problems is what they do. Steering operation. You can drive down the road, and if your steering wheel turns about a half a turn before the car reacts, I think there's a problem. I don't know what it is yet, but these are all things that on a normal annual maintenance, and I call it annual because I firmly believe you should service your car once a year, no matter how many times you drive it, how many miles are on it, minimum. Okay, so abnormal noises. If it's growling, that means you're low on fluid. And what would that indicate? If you're low on fluid, that means there's probably a leak. It doesn't evaporate. Shimmy, that's can be suspension, can be tires, can be steering. That's another thing. Pull. Now, one thing I'd like to express a little bit more on a pull. I've had customers come in and say, my car pulls to the right, really bad. And I go out and I drive it. And the way I look for a pull is I will get on a nice level crown. If you're in the right lane, most roads are crowned. So in the right lane, you're kind of going downhill. It's always going to want to pull. So I get on the high spot, which is closer to the center, and I let go of the steering wheel, momentarily, obviously. And if the car drives straight, then I'm happy. If it starts to pull left or right, then that to me is a pull. And I've gone round and round with a couple of people on that, and they come back in and it still pulls. So I have to go for a ride with them. So what they do is they drive down the road, they make the steering wheel straight, and then the car turns. So if your steering wheel is not centered properly, that doesn't mean the car is pulling. That means it's off center. So that's my definition of a pull. That means that the car naturally will pull on its own. Most cars should, if you let go of the steering wheel, just track straight on a nice flat level road. So here we go. Brake performance. Silver Shadow, that's a very, very important thing. This car has a extensive hydraulic system that has pumps that build up high pressure brake fluid, which the car will modulate with the brake pedal. It stores that high brake pressure in accumulators, and it has so many lines underneath it. It's incredible. So what I look for in brake performance, when I hit the brakes, do you hear any noises? Does it grind? That's a bad one. The Silver Shadows and on up to the Arnages and all that, before that, they will get a weird brake pedal feel. Now, the brake pedal feels funny on these anyways. You've got about 1.5 inches travel, you hit it, and it feels like a little spongy little thing, and it's not hard like a lot of cars. But when you get air in the system on these, or if you have one of the pressure systems that is compromised, even both, you will get what's called a two-stage pedal. So the best way to describe that in words is you go to apply the brakes, you start to feel some resistance, but the car is not slowing. And then you press it a little bit further and then it pulls all of a sudden. That's a two-stage. So you feel resistance without it starting to slow, and then you push it a little bit harder, and then all of a sudden you have a lot. That typically will happen on these cars where air gets into the system. And by design, they have a source of air that can get in there, and that's at the distribution valves. The distribution valves are not sealed, perfect sealed. They're a machine fit, so they can actually draw air in, and these cars need to be bled. The brakes need to be bled every time you service them.